To all my gamers and NFT players, Viral Hip Hop News and the Lightest Fair Network have teamed up to bring you something revolutionary in the gaming and NFT space. Go to play.finesse.fun right now to play the season preview of the game Finesse Shadow Warriors exclusively on play.finesse.fun. Don't be the last to be a part of this new technological advancement in gaming and NFT. Play.finesse.fun to play the season preview of the game Finesse Shadow Warriors. Link is in the description box. Let them know Viral Hip Hop News sent you.
Welcome to another episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. I'm your brother O Guy from Hip Hop News Uncensored, and sitting across from me is my co-host.
What up, y'all? It's your man Sam Ant, CEO of Viral Hip Hop News, in the building for a very special edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. We got hip hop royalty in the building this afternoon. We got Uncle Ralph on the podcast, the legendary Ralph McDaniels. How you doing today, sir?
Oh man, I'm good, man. Good. I was saying I feel a little sick today, and always automatically, like you said, we think that we got COVID and all kinds of stuff like that. But I'm here.
Indeed, we appreciate you toughing it out for us, man. This afternoon, you just had the documentary come out on Showtime on Video Music Box, narrated or conducted by the legendary Nas. An incredible piece of artwork that was needed in the culture when you talk about some of the pioneers in hip hop, man. So we definitely appreciate having you on this afternoon and can't wait to break some stuff down. So let's start. While I'm watching the documentary, and I was obviously in the beginning, you talk about how your parents are from Trinidad and Native Americans in America. Talk about growing up, man, and growing up. I believe you grew up in Brooklyn, right? And then moved to Queens.
Yeah, I mean, that was an important part of my story, and one of the things that I wanted to do with this documentary, and I watch all hip hop documentaries for sure, but I just a documentary kind of theme, period. I wanted to do something that, I felt like I hadn't seen in any of the hip hop documentaries. Was like, really, like, let's go like behind the story, like let's really talk to me. Let's really figure out where I'm from. And let's take a look at it from a Brooklyn and Queens perspective, because most of the time when I see documentaries, it comes like, well, and it started in the Bronx and da-da-da. And that's true. But I wasn't in the Bronx. I was in Brooklyn and Queens. And so let's go from that perspective. And so in Brooklyn and in Queens, a heavy duty Caribbean community. And so I just started from there, and let's talk about that, and that was one of the things that was important to me growing up, and my heritage, here in this country. Is that my family was from Trinidad, and my father's family, and it was like well known, like it wasn't like we kind of played it to the side. It was like, no, we from Trinidad. And then on my dad's side, it was American Indian, and it was like we went to powwows and all of that kind of thing, like we didn't try to like play it to the side at all.
Now, I heard you telling a story about Queens, and you said, I guess in Queens, that was the first time you was called the N-word.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that and like the racism that you had to deal with in New York.
Yeah, people would look at New York and think about, up north and being progressive and the way they think. But like I said in the doc, the kid called me the N-word, and I never, ever in my life had heard that before. I didn't even know what that meant. But like I said in the doc, I knew it wasn't good. And it's funny because later on, that same kid, we became friends. We played football with each other. We played baseball.
Wow.
But this is the same kid so this was like something that didn't come from him. It came from, society, whole thing, but it made a big impact on me, because I felt like, why would somebody feel that they were better than me? Like I do the same. I got up this morning. I did the right thing. I did what I was supposed to do. Why would you feel like you're better? I could never comprehend that. Like, we're all equal. That was always the way I saw it. Because mind you, now I'm coming up. My parents are like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're hearing all the time. We equal rights, equal rights, equal rights. So why would somebody think that they were better than us? Like, we go to work, we got a car, we got, we do the same things that everybody else do. What's the problem?
Now, another part of the documentary that I love was when you talked about your uncle, and who I found out your uncle was Jeffrey Holder, the legendary actor, director, artist. And I remember him. I was like, that's the dude when I was a kid that showed me that sister getting pregnant on Boomerang. That was that wild motherfucker. Talk about your uncle, Jeffrey Holder, and just how Trinidadian families work. Because like you said, you had your family, and if you were coming in from immigrations that you needed an address and they used your address, you were the address to use. And we see so many different cultures outside of our Black race that come over here, they get together, they live together for a while, and then they branch out and build their own. So talk about your infrastructure. Is that kind of the blueprint in your family?
Yeah, definitely. My grandfather owned the building. And everybody in the house basically somehow or another knew each other, or somebody who knew somebody recommended that person to stay there. And that was it. And so in the house, usually when people came from Trinidad or whatever island they were coming from, some came from Barbados, some came from different places. But with Trinidad, in the case of Jeffrey Holder, he came and he was pursuing his Broadway career, dancing and choreography and things like that. And so when he came, it was like Jeffrey's like 6'7", like he's like a basketball player. And so like I was a kid now, mind you. I was like, what is going on here? Who are these big dudes coming up and down the house all day? And and I was like, okay. So then we saw it on, like you might have saw them on TV or the news. You might have, they were in Harlem. They were recording something in Harlem. And you saw Jeffrey's on TV. Or you saw him in a magazine, Ebony or Jet back then, the early publications for Black people. And, and so you'd be like, oh, wow, he's in, I read this all the time. This is a big deal. That's when I realized that the media could change your perspective on everything, or people's perspective on you. Let's put it like that. Yeah. I said, I got to be on TV because that's where I can be popular like Jeffrey.
Word.
So you were around, in New York around a time where hip hop was coming into fruition, starting off as an underground movement. Tell us about hip hop and how you've seen it. How did it spread like wildfire? I know you were around to witness that. So let our audience know how you witnessed hip hop evolving in the beginning.
I mean, I've been around from the beginning of hip hop. It's the only genre which I'm proud of that I've watched from day one to now. I watched it literally be, we on the corner, we beatboxing, we in the park, we plugging in the light poles, we're putting our equipment out there and DJing, and then dudes are rapping on the mic. And then all of a sudden, Russell Simmons comes to me and said, here's a record. And I'm like, a record? Why would they make a record out of this? We do this for free every day. Like, who's going to buy this? And he was like, he said, well, everybody's not coming to the park. And I was like, oh, okay. And I never looked at it any further than what was happening in the park at that particular time. Like, why would somebody buy this? It just I couldn't comprehend that. But he did. That's why he's a billionaire. But yeah, so that was the beginning of it. That was how it started. That was what took it to a whole nother level. And I'm blessed to be around a guy like him that I'm watching it happen in real time right in front of me. And I'm like this, like Run DMC, you watch from literally being on the corner in the bars to an arena to a stadium, and then they're gone. They're out of here. They're like selling more records than anybody could. It was only a few people. There was only a handful of people that were making this music at the time. Even if you include the whole, United States. Like now, everybody is into hip hop. Right. It's the thing. But it wasn't like that. It was. You couldn't even get a record played on the radio because that's all we had. There was no YouTube, no social media, nothing like that. So you'd be listening to the radio and you hear like all these R&B records and whatever, and you'd be like, let's go up to that radio station and see if they'll play this hip hop record. And you would go up to that radio station, and they would literally slam the door in your face, like, do not bring that garbage up here. It's not going to get played. And then all of a sudden it became the thing. And now there are radio stations and streaming networks that are just for hip hop. That didn't exist. We couldn't imagine that happening. Now it happens on a regular basis.
So you go to college, right? study communications. You come out. Take us back, excuse me, to the beginning of the video Music Box and how big that was back then. Because we were a little bit. I'm 36. You're 38, right now.
Yeah.
So we weren't able to really witness that in our childhood. But take us back to that, the video Music Box.
So I started Video Music Box in 1983, which seems like, I was talking to Ghostface Killer the other day, and Ghostface like, "Yo, Ralph, you ancient, man." And that's like, we started laughing, right? And I said, "Yeah, I'm still here." And he said, "Yo, man, I'm glad you're still here, God." And so I was talking to him, and I was like, when we started this, the Wu-Tang was kids. Everybody was kids. There wasn't but a couple of hip hop videos. And that's when it became a thing. Like, you go home. I was talking to these kids, and I was like, I wasn't purposely doing it, but the music that I was playing was, because I always was into what was new, what was popping right now. And so I've tried, and this is for anybody that's out there right now. If you are showcasing or previewing new music, you're catching the new wave of kids that are into it. Now, you might not be into it like that, but there's a kid out there that's the new wave, and that's what hip hop was at the time. It was the new wave of music, and we were playing everything and everything that we could find that was hip hop related, and that's where I think we really got the attention of the kids. And then at the same time, we could play a little old school. We could play a little slow jam. We did a little bit of everything. It's not like we just played hip hop. We played a little bit of everything, and I think that the audience appreciated that. People like say, "Oh, young people just like to hear young things." I was like, I don't know about that. I'm not sure if that's true. I think they appreciate a little old school that their parents be bugging out to. They in two-step into. I just feel like I feel we played rock and roll on our show. Who's to say that just Black and Latinos just want to hear hip hop and R&B? Like, that's a dumb thing to say. You trying to say that they don't like rock and roll, they don't like reggae, they don't like new wave, they don't like punk? Like, what are you talking about? Even all of those genres, we created those too. But this is just and I remember when the music business started separating those genres. Like, they were like, oh, and it was somewhere in the early 90s. And so they were sending me everything at one time, like rock and roll, punk rock, whatever it was, all at the same time. Then they were like, "Okay, Ralph, we're just going to send you to hip hop and R&B because we know that's really what you want." So I was like, "Not really. We play a little bit of everything. Like, why would we not play those genres if it's good,
Right?
if it works for us?" And but that was an assumption by some record executive at a label that said that Black people just want to hear hip hop and R&B.
When you guys were starting Video Music Box, you and Lionel C. Martin, did you guys realize that you would be pioneers of the game? Like, when you talk about pulling up on act or music acts, rap and hip hop artists, R&B artists now, and getting drops, getting shout outs, pulling up and doing interviews and not really being seen, but just letting the microphone be there, and then eventually going in and doing innovative stuff that we're still doing to this day, and now people making millions of dollars doing in the privacy of their own home. Did you guys know at the time that you were just changing the game and how media was even being done?
I think when we first started, we knew that it was important to change the way Black media looked like. And that's the way I was looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, because the only time I ever saw a Black person like doing interviews or anything like we're doing right now was on the news. It was like, okay, there was maybe one person that was on the news, that one Black woman or that one Black man. And you were like, well, at least they got one. Some channels didn't have like CBS never had no Black people on there. Like CBS, this was funny to me when I watched CBS, but they never had no Black people. But this is back in the day. But I think for me, we wanted to change the way, especially with young Black men, how we looked on TV. We wanted to have them talking in a positive way, about what they were doing. Because many guys I knew, they were entrepreneurs. They was, making clothes. They was producers. They might have had DJ crews that were going around doing weddings and things for people, you know, whatever it was. It was positive, but you never saw that side of the hood. You only seen the black person getting punched down in the car, you know, after they whatever crime they, you know, allegedly committed.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to change that look.
Right. So take us to Nas. You said Nas, he contacts you, and you're very surprised that he contacts you to direct Video Music Box documentary.
Well, Nas comes into play where we already were working on this documentary. I've been working on this for like 5 years. I go to Mass Appeal with a brother named Sasha Jenkins, who's directed a bunch of stuff at Mass Appeal. He did the Wu-Tang documentary. He did Fresh Dressed, a joint on the LA riots he did. And I'm like, yo, and I've helped him out on all of his documentaries. And I said, yo, Sasha, you know, like I'm trying to get this thing done. You know, we've moved around a couple of different places. We end up at Showtime, and he's like, look, man, I'm going in. Nas is a partner with Mass Appeal. So Nas comes into the meeting, he pitches the idea. They don't know what Showtime's going to like, you know, because you don't know. And the guy at Showtime goes, man, I grew up watching Video Music Box. I'd love to see what that looks like.
Wow.
And so it was random, you know, like they didn't know that the guy was going to say that. Big up to Vinny. And so, you know, they hit me back like, yo, the Video Music Box one is the only one that they really liked. You know, they definitely with that one. And so I was like, okay. And so at this point, Nas is executive producer. So then we get the deal done. We're going to shoot it. And then Nas comes in and goes, I think I want to direct, or we want Nas to direct this because, well, Nas wants to direct this. And I was like, okay. But when does Nas have time to do that? Like, I don't understand. Nas is Nas, you know, like it's and then we're gonna get on the phone. Nas is like, yo, bro. And I remember these words clearly. He said, I'm gonna take care of this. I want to make sure we get this right. And literally, every time I say that, I get emotional because I remember this is Nas.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like he's my little bro, but he's a big deal, you know? And I'm like, I said, yo, Nas, Joe, don't play with me, bro. Don't play with me. And so, and that was it. And once, you know why? Because I knew that I was going to be all right because he understood what the place was where we came from. He knows those dark spaces. You know, hip hop wasn't always about making money. It was always about the hustle and the grind. It still is about the hustle and the grind. You could literally come from nothing, get into hip hop, and then create something for your family and whatever. So he knows that. And so I said, all right, let's ride out. And that was it.
I think it's a perfect time to kind of segue into what I want to talk about as far as something we discuss a lot on this platform, and that's the current state of hip hop and some of the roots and the reasonings as to why we see some of the things that we see, some of the negativity that we see. And a lot of people that we have on here, in particular in the hip hop genre, we'd like to ask them, does the labels, do the higher ups have a responsibility in some of the negativity that we hear being promoted on our radio stations and on our platforms? Because hip hop was based and was bred on positivity, uplifting and when we started hearing lyrics, they were positive and uplifting lyrics. And eventually throughout time that began to change. It began to change from a narration of what was going on to a glamorization of something very negative. Do the labels, in your opinion, have a responsibility, or do they take culpability in what we hear in the negativity in hip hop today?
The record labels have no responsibility to the type of music that is put out by these artists. They are a corporation that has board members, and the bottom line is for them to make money. And they don't care where you come from. They don't care what you do, how you sell your soul out, as long as you help them reach the bottom line. So if you thinking about a record label caring about your community, or any type of entity that deals with entertainment caring about your community, you crazy. And these artists, you know, you might want to get signed to one of these labels, but trust and believe that their bottom line is to make money, not to take care of and make your community safer.
Thank you for that.
Right. So would you say that it's like you kind of already answered it, but I want to get in this way. There's no morality in that at all. It's just like, all right, I don't care if they doing this. We're here to make money, and that's that. You think they can sleep well at night with that type of ideology? The labels.
Oh yeah, the record labels could sleep real well as long as they reach their bottom line. They don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about your family. They don't care. And the agents that they have working for them. I mean, like, mind you, these are people that are just they're that work for this corporation. They don't care about you. Like, why? Because they're getting a check, and why would they care about you? Their interest is in what their Wall Street is, in how they're doing, across the country. It's not, I get crazy when I think about it, because I always thought that, yeah, you could go up and we can get a balance of some good positive hip hop, and you guys can still do that at the label. There was a time when that did exist, and there were some artists, some record label A&R people that were like, yeah, let's sign Public Enemy, let's sign KRS-One, let's sign X-Clan, in these groups. And then one day, some guy in the boardroom said, so these guys are not selling as much as these other guys who are talking about shooting and killing and beating up women. So why are we signing these guys? Let's just sign the guys that are shooting, killing, and beating up women. We need more artists like them. We don't need no more KRS-Ones and Public Enemies and X-Clans and anybody doing positive. Dead Prez. Cut that. We don't need that no more. And that's the bottom line. So they cut the fat and said, that's it. We don't need that. And this is what we're going with. And we're going to make it even now. So it's going to sound similar. We have to be real careful. And I was reading, I think it was will.i.am said this, that the algorithms on the internet can tell us exactly what type of music we really, really like. You might say you like something, but the algorithms will tell you what you really like. You guys know that. You guys are in that space. And we have to be careful, because one day they're going to create an artist, and they're going to create a whole music video and the whole project based upon algorithms that we really, really like. And you're not going to know if it's real or fake. It's going to exist.
So in your opinion, is this a racial issue that they look at us as black men and black women as, okay, we're easily disposable? Or is this just simply a money situation? This is simply green and ain't got no color to it. This is all about the money and the dollar bill and the end goal.
Well, it's definitely all about the green, the money and the dollar bill. Now, it can become a racial thing when you start, taking it too far. Like, you believe that, you can just take advantage of people because of their skin color. Right. So does that happen? All the time. So at the end of the day, the existence of black people in this country was for slavery.
Yeah.
And, so that's the way the corporation looks at it. And so we have to remember that. Maybe hip hop is no different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. Talk to us about JayZ. I know you got a great relationship with JayZ. And then I want to ask you another part about this whole thing about the verses and all that. But what's your relationship like with JayZ? And I know you guys got a lot of great history together.
Yes, I was working with JayZ from day one. Like, literally, I watched him come up, out of Brooklyn. He was this hot artist that was, getting features on different projects. We worked with Jazzo, who was a friend of mine. I think that was JayZ's first project. Then he worked with Big Daddy Kane, and he was doing some feature work or some ghostwriting or something with him. And then you know, eventually he started to pop up with Dame Dash and Original Flavor, and you know, he was featured on that project, and that's when we started to see the emergence of Rockefeller, you know, and that becoming something. So from day one, I watched Jay, and if you would have told me he's a billionaire, I would have said, I don't think so. But he had it. You know, they were moving like business people. They were moving like that. You know, it was they had taken whatever street cred, street knowledge they had, and now moved it into the music business and set up shop in that way. And so I think the combination of Biggs, Dame, and Jay was powerful for, you know, the music business to watch, just like how Diddy and Bad Boy was powerful, and you know, Russell and Def Jam and Fly Tie with Coach. You know, like when you walk into an office and you see brothers running their own business, it feels good. You like, yo, man,
Yeah.
I could talk freely, you know.
Absolutely.
And we got this debate going. Everybody's talking. You've been around with JayZ from the beginning. I don't know if you watch these versus battles or not, but do you think there's any rapper out there alive now that could beat JayZ in a versus battle, in your opinion?
Oh, in the verses, oh, Nas, yeah.
Wow.
Is that a Queens thing?
Absolutely.
I ain't
But you're
mad
from
at
Brooklyn,
you.
though, too, right?
I ain't mad
You
at
kind
you.
of
Brooklyn and Queens.
okay.
Yeah. Now look, both of them. I would be so happy to sit there and watch Jay and Nas have fun. They're friends, you know. Ain't nothing.
Yeah.
It's always competition,
Right.
Say, friends, my ass. If Ether came on, what's happening?
right. And so, but that's the only person that I could see in that situation, because everything else would be, you know, fireworks. Nas is just lyrics. You know, even Jay, you know, is going to be add some fireworks to it. Nas is just lyrics. He's not going to come with no extras. It's just lyric words. Let's get to the words, and that's the part that I love about those two together with each other. You know, and yeah.
Hip hop for you, like you said in the beginning, you've been here full circle in hip hop. You started at the beginning, you're currently watching it now. In your opinion, how has it evolved through your eyes and through your spectrum? And how do you see hip hop now as we currently see it?
I think hip hop is still evolving. It's constantly evolving. It has so many places that it can go. I'm excited about what the artists are doing right now. Even though I might not know all of them, but I'm listening to the music and I'm listening to the frequencies that they play. I'm a DJ, so I listen to like kind of like weird. Like I'm like always like, what's the frequency on this? You know, where's it going? You know, and sometimes, you know, I might not get it, but I understand that it's a process, and you know, and it has to go through whatever process that it goes through. It's gone through this before, from 1983, you know, in 1986, when Eric B. and Rakim dropped, hip hop takes a total shift. You know, it's like, what? This dude is just talking. You know, like he's not rhyming. I mean, he is, but he's talking. And then, you know, you get up to Public Enemy, and you know, and he's talking again. You know, and you know, like, so we've watched these shifts in hip hop, and you know, people say, "Oh, it's every 5 years." I think it's even more than that. I think it's even more than that. But yeah, I think that it's right where it's supposed to be. You know, it's funny because I was watching this documentary last night on Juice World, and I was like, you know, it's sad to watch. It's really sad. It's a sad movie.
Yeah.
But it's the reality of what these young people are into right now. And we got to do what we got to do to save these kids, you know, because I'm looking at his mom. How did this happen, Mom? You knew your kid was out on the road. You knew he was on that lean like that. How did this happen?
Yeah. How do you feel about, you talk about you like the state of hip hop, Southern hip hop when that came on, and how that evolved over time? Because I know, typically people from New York, not all are up top, we had a hard time adapting to that. I know I did, to the Southern form of hip hop. How do you like how that's grown in hip hop over the last 10 to 15 years?
I think for me, hip hop in the South is like soul music. It's like there's a certain amount of soul that the Southern artists have that we don't have in the East or in the West. They have a certain amount of. Excuse me a second, guys.
No problem,
sir.
bro.
Take your time.
Let me get something to drink.
Yeah,
No
yes,
problem.
sir.
Do
Yes,
your
sir.
thing.
Got the legendary Ralph McDaniels here on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast, one of the hip hop journalist pioneers. He wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this brother. So definitely appreciate this interview.
And loving the stories, man, and loving the perspective. Just even, I can't wait to finish where we were going with that conversation. Because if you think about Southern hip hop and how we talked about it early on, and we didn't understand and didn't appreciate it, and even some of the newer artists with a lot of the melodic and the auto tunes and stuff like that, that's around the world. If you look at it as soul music and not hip hop, may hit a little different. Like I want to listen to some soul music today, as opposed to I want to listen to some hip hop, because when you put them together, the shit don't mix. It's like vinegar and water, oil, and whatever the fuck that is. But I like how you put that.
Nah, yeah, that's I never heard that perspective. That's what you're gonna get, man, from the legend of the game. But yeah, man, great interview so far. If you guys are listening on the podcast, please make sure to leave your 5-star rating, share the video, and here we are, man. We got the legendary Ralph McDaniels back on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast.
Thank you for grinding it out with us, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm a little sick today, and it caught me. I was like, "This, I can't even talk." But anyway, like I said, I think with Southern hip hop, it's like soul music. When I listen to soul music, it's certain things that they say in the records and back in the days. Certain vinyl, you listen to it, you're like, man, this is incredible. And you don't hear that in the East Coast. You don't hear that in the West Coast. And the South has got something. The South has something that nobody else has. And that's what makes them special. We need that. That's all Black music. That's all part of what makes us who we are. And so whenever I listen to certain artists, like I was doing a top 10 the other day. No, somebody asked me, what's my top 5? I said, today, I'm gonna tell you. And I included Ludacris in it. I was like, Ludacris. And so I was like, why not? And they knew. I said, Ludacris is an incredible artist, man. Don't sleep on him.
Word up. We're not gonna hold you too much longer. We definitely want to appreciate respect, what you got going on right now.
Yeah.
But real quick, bit of pioneer in hip hop, like we said a million times right now during this podcast. What is one of your most legendary stories that you remember, just like a moment in time that you'll never forget, if you can break down one of them?
I think for me, the probably Fresh Fest. It was a concert that we shot in 1985. We went to this place called the Nassau Coliseum, which was an arena, hold like 15,000 people. I never saw hip hop in a space that big. And that's when I realized that hip hop could take it to a whole nother level. This was an arena. This was not a stadium. A stadium is like, 60,000. When I saw it in the stadium, I was like, wow, look at that. Look at hip hop. So it continues to grow. It continues to do amazing things. But for me, when I saw that Fresh Fest, there's a section in the documentary that was showing Fresh Fest, and that's all we had. We was happy. We were so happy to be in a space, that they allowed us to come in that space. First of all, they're gonna allow us to come in here. We weren't allowed to go into those places. I mean, only time we ever went to the stadium was, there might have been some kind of, I don't know, Luther Vandross concert or something like that.
Man, I heard you talking. You were talking about Video Music Box, and you said you had a lot of footage, like over 3 or 4 hours worth. Is there any chance you could have a part 2 to that? Any talks for that for part 2?
Yeah, there's definitely a part 2 and 3.
Okay.
And literally, it's almost already cut. Like we feel like it's already done. And so, I think when you start doing these projects, people, I knew that it was going to be good. I think Nas knew that it was going to be good. Mass Appeal knew. But Showtime, this is something new. They don't really know. Like, they're like, well, let's see what you guys got first, and we'll figure it out. We'll feel it out. And so then when they saw it, first of all, it wasn't what they expected. It wasn't the normal hip hop documentary, whatever that is. And it was something that felt different. It looked different, and it was from a whole different perspective. And my whole thing, like I was telling stories to Nas that, these were real stories. They really happened, And so he was like, Nas would be just laughing, like, wow. But a lot of that stuff didn't make it to the edit because we had to cut it down to 90 minutes. And so, I told him, I said, look, I remember saying this is going to be the #1 doc that y'all having. Right now, it's the #1 documentary on Showtime.
Unbelievable.
And they looked at me like,
beautiful.
Right, everybody says that. And I was like, I'm trying to tell you, watch.
Wow.
And it's been received as such, and it's an awesome documentary and a beautiful piece of work. And we definitely appreciate you. We'd love to talk to you more. There's so many other questions, but like I said, we know you're under the weather, man. And we want to respect your time. Definitely.
Yeah. Please, because I don't want to be a meme.
Nah, we won't do that to you, brother. We got you. We got you.
I was like this. Oh no.
Nah, indeed. But when you get some more time, man, maybe we could kind of set up behind the scenes and get you down here or get you back virtually. We definitely appreciate you. The legendary Mr. Ralph McDaniels on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Anything you want to leave? Any final remarks? Social media handles? Anything to look forward to? Floor is yours.
Yeah, you can follow me at Video Music Box on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and videomusicbox.com, and support our nonprofit, which we have to make sure that we can preserve all this incredible footage and put it in institutions, learning institutions and colleges, and museums and libraries. So that's the whole process that we're going through right now. Is some of the footage, just a little bit of the footage, this comes from that project right there. But we continue to keep digitizing and making this footage available so that people can learn from it and do whatever you want to do with it. Switch it up, mix it up, do whatever you want to do with it.
Indeed.
Yes, sir. Got the legendary Ralph McDaniels on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. We appreciate you once again and thank you for your contribution and opening up doors for people like us in the industry.
Indeed.
Thanks
Salute.
again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, take it easy.
Let's do it again.